Imagine a college town, vibrant and bustling, suddenly gripped by an unimaginable fear. Gainesville, Florida, August 1990. The air thick with humidity, but a far colder dread settled over the campus of the University of Florida. Freshmen were moving into dorms, eager for new beginnings, unaware that a monster lurked in their midst. This wasn't a campfire tale. This was real, a brutal nightmare unfolding day by day. The first victim was Sonia Larson, an 18-year-old freshman. Her body was found in her off-campus apartment on August 26th. The scene was horrific. She had been raped, stabbed repeatedly, and decapitated. The brutality was immediately clear, a level of violence that shocked even hardened investigators. Just hours later, Christina Powell, another 17-year-old freshman, was discovered in her apartment, dead under similar gruesome circumstances. The town reeled, two young women just starting their lives, obliterated with such savagery. A sense of panic, quiet at first, began to spread like a virus. Students, parents, and residents all started to ask the same terrifying question: who was doing this and why? The next day, August 7th, the horror escalated. Krista Hoyt, a 17-year-old student working at the local sheriff's office, was found murdered in her apartment. The method was eerily consistent with the previous two: raped, stabbed, and decapitated. 3 victims in less than 4 hours. The pattern was undeniable. A serial killer was loose in Gainesville, targeting young women, seemingly at random, breaking into their apartments with chilling ease. The media descended, news vans swarmed the town, and the once carefree atmosphere evaporated, replaced by a suffocating blanket of terror. Students began fleeing the city in droves, packing cars and heading home, desperate to escape the unseen menace. The University of Florida, usually a hub of excitement, became a ghost town. Curfews were imposed, self-defense classes sprang up, and fear became the city's constant companion. The Gainesville Police Department, overwhelmed and under immense pressure, worked tirelessly, but the killer left precious few clues, only a trail of unspeakable violence. On August 28th, the nightmare continued, but with a horrifying twist. Manuel Taboada, 23, and Tracy Paulus, 23, both University of Florida students, were found murdered in their apartment. This time, the killer had targeted a male and female. Seemingly breaking the previous pattern, they had both been stabbed multiple times. While Tracy had also been raped, Manuel's presence suggested the killer was growing bolder, more indiscriminate. The Gainesville community was now paralyzed. No one felt safe. Doors were triple locked, windows barred, and the simple act of walking alone became an act of bravery. Fear turned to rage, then to desperation. Local authorities were inundated with tips, many useless, some leading to dead ends. The killer, dubbed the Gainesville Ripper by the media, seemed to vanish into thin air after each attack, leaving behind only devastation and unanswered questions. The intense media coverage, while creating mass hysteria, also brought national attention to the case. Law enforcement agencies from across the country offered assistance. Forensic teams painstakingly combed through each crime scene, hoping for a breakthrough. The FBI joined the investigation, bringing their expertise in profiling and behavioral analysis. They theorized the killer was a white male, likely a transient or someone with a deep-seated rage, possibly with a history of sexual violence. Every suspicious individual in Gainesville was scrutinized, every lead followed. The pressure on the investigators was immense, knowing that with each passing day, the killer could strike again. The city held its breath, waiting for the next horror to unfold, praying for an end to the terror. Days turned into weeks, and the initial panic slowly gave way to a weary, unsettling vigilance. Gainesville remained on edge, but no new murders occurred. Investigators continued their relentless work, reviewing every piece of evidence. Finally, a break came. DNA evidence, meticulously collected from the crime scenes, began to point towards a suspect. Richard Speck, Ted Bundy, now Danny Rolling. His name, Danny Rolling, emerged. He was a drifter, already wanted for armed robbery in Florida, and had a history of violent crimes, including a series of rapes and burglaries in Shreveport, Louisiana. He had been staying in a campsite near Gainesville during the murders. Police had even questioned him briefly during the initial sweeps, but he had provided an alibi, and without concrete evidence, they had let him go. The pieces slowly began to fit. On September 8, 1990, Danny Rolling was arrested on charges related to the Shreveport crimes. While he was in custody, the DNA evidence from the Gainesville murders definitively linked him to the crime scenes. The relief in Gainesville was palpable, but it was quickly replaced by a chilling realization. The monster had been among them, unnoticed. Rolling's confession, when it finally came, was horrifying. He admitted to all 5 murders, detailing the savagery with a disturbing lack of emotion. He claimed he was driven by an alter ego, Gemini, who commanded him to kill. He reveled in the notoriety, seeking to become a superstar criminal. His motives, a twisted cocktail of sexual sadism, rage, and a desire for fame, painted a picture of pure evil. The psychological profile of Danny Rolling revealed a deeply disturbed individual with a traumatic past, including a violent and abusive father. He had a history of escalating criminal behavior, from burglary to rape, before culminating in the Gainesville murder. He was a master manipulator, able to blend in, to appear harmless, all while harboring unspeakable darkness within. His trial, which began in 1994, was a media circus. The graphic details of the murders were laid bare, re-traumatizing the victims' families and the community. Rolling, at times defiant, at times seemingly remorseful, ultimately pleaded guilty to the murders, avoiding the death penalty only temporarily. The ripple effects of the Gainesville murder extended far beyond the immediate grief and terror. The case became a blueprint for understanding serial killers, prompting advancements in forensic science and criminal profiling. It also profoundly impacted how universities approached student safety, leading to increased security measures, emergency alert systems, and heightened awareness. But perhaps its most unexpected legacy was its influence on popular culture, particularly the horror genre. Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter of the iconic Scream franchise, openly admitted that the Gainesville murders were a direct inspiration for his slasher masterpiece. The concept of a killer stalking students in a small town, the sense of betrayal and paranoia, the media frenzy, and the sheer randomness of the violence, all were echoes of the Gainesville nightmare. Ghostface, with his chilling phone calls and the taunting psychological games, embodies the unseen terror that gripped Gainesville. The fear that anyone could be next, that safety was an illusion, was perfectly captured. The Gainesville Ripper case served as a brutal reminder that monsters don't always lurk in shadows. Sometimes they walk among us, seemingly normal, until their true nature is revealed. The Summer of Terror in Gainesville, 1990, left an indelible scar on the city and its residents. It was a story of innocence lost, of unimaginable evil, and of a community forever changed. Even today, the name Danny Rolling sends shivers down the spine, a chilling testament to the enduring power of real-life horror. Because sometimes the most frightening stories aren't fiction, they're the ones that actually happened.